Another client rejection, Rachel? My brother James smirked across our parents' mahogany dinner table. Maybe if you'd gotten a real degree instead of that useless psychology Ph.D., you'd have actual success to report at these monthly family dinners. I took a slow sip of wine, thinking about the confidential merger documents sitting in my office safe. Documents that would determine whether his precious investment bank lived or died. Documents he had no idea I controlled. Psychology is fascinating, I replied quietly. You'd be surprised how much human behavior affects business decisions. Human behavior doesn't make money, my sister Sarah chimed in, adjusting her Rolex, a gift from her law firm for making partner. Real success comes from practical degrees. Business. Law. Finance. If they only knew that my useless degree had built the most exclusive consulting firm in the country. That CEOs of Fortune 500 companies waited months for my approval on their biggest decisions. That their own company's fates rested in my hands. Speaking of success, my father began his usual parade of family achievements. James just closed another billion-dollar deal at Goldman Sachs. And Sarah's firm is handling the Preston Myers merger, my mother added proudly. The biggest corporate merger of the year. I hid my smile behind my wine glass. They had no idea I was the anonymous consultant both companies had hired to evaluate the psychological viability of that very merger. The one I was likely going to reject. What about you, Rachel? Aunt Patricia asked with fake concern. Any progress with that consultation business of yours? It's going fine. Fine. James laughed. She probably has 2 clients who need help with their anxiety. Meanwhile, I'm handling real business. My phone buzzed quietly, a message from my executive assistant. White House meeting confirmed for tomorrow. They want your assessment of the new economic advisory team. You know, Sarah leaned forward, my firm is always looking for corporate counsel. Even with your unusual background, we might find something entry-level. I thought about the psychological profile I'd compiled on her firm's managing partner. The one he'd paid 6 figures for last month. The same partner who'd specifically requested my services after I'd accurately predicted 3 major market shifts based on executive behavior patterns. I'm happy with my current work, I replied. What work? James snorted. Listening to people's problems all day? That's not work, that's glorified therapy. You'd be amazed what people reveal when they talk, I said softly. Their fears. Their plans. Their vulnerabilities. Speaking of plans, my father interrupted, James's team is finalizing that acquisition next week. The Anderson Group deal. Now that's real business. I kept my face neutral, even as I recalled my morning meeting with Anderson Group CEO. He'd asked for my evaluation of Goldman's acquisition offer. My recommendation would land on his desk tomorrow. Reject the deal. James's team had missed critical psychological indicators in the corporate culture compatibility. Rachel, my mother sighed, we just want you to reach your potential. All that education, and what do you have to show for it? I thought about my penthouse office overlooking Central Park. The waiting list of Fortune 500 CEOs. The government contracts. The private jet I actually owned, unlike James's company lease. I do all right. All right isn't enough in this family, James declared. Look at my division's performance. $3 billion in deals this quarter alone. And how's the Anderson acquisition going? I asked innocently. He frowned. Proceeding. Why? Just curious about human behavior patterns in high-stakes negotiations. Sarah rolled her eyes. There you go again with the psychology nonsense. This is why you'll never understand real business. My phone buzzed again. Urgent call from Preston Myers CEO. Wants to triple your fee for expedited merger evaluation. You know what your problem is, Rachel? James pointed his fork at me. You're too passive. In real business you have to be aggressive. Take what you want. I thought about how aggressively I was about to tank his Anderson deal. Sometimes, I replied, the quiet ones have the most power. Power, he laughed. You sit in an office listening to people talk. That's not power. Tell me, James, I smiled slightly, how many of your deals require psychological compatibility assessments? He waved dismissively. Some consultant nonsense the clients insist on. Waste of time and money. And who provides those assessments? Some top secret firm the clients won't even tell us about. Probably overcharging them for basic. His voice trailed off as realization flickered across his face. My phone lit up again. Goldman Sachs CEO requesting urgent meeting. Anderson Group acquisition. Excuse me, I stood up. I have a call to take. More anxiety clients? Sarah smirked. Something like that. I stepped into our parents' study, knowing that tomorrow, James would discover exactly who held the real power in his billion-dollar deals. His face would be priceless when the Anderson Group CEO quoted my psychological assessment as the reason for rejecting Goldman's offer. Sometimes the quiet ones don't just have power. They have everyone else's power too. They just don't feel the need to brag about it at family dinner. The next morning I sat in my real office, a sprawling penthouse suite overlooking Central Park, where CEOs and world leaders came to bare their souls and seek my approval. The walls were lined with advanced one-way glass, preserving client anonymity while letting in the morning light. Dr. Rachel, my AI system psyche announced, Goldman Sachs arriving in 5 minutes. James Sullivan's team requested to join. I smiled, adjusting my Chanel blazer, the one Sarah had mockingly called assistant wear at dinner. Keep James's team in the secondary conference room. Let's see how long it takes them to realize where they are. My phone buzzed with increasingly desperate messages from last night. James, need urgent consult on Anderson Group. Client requesting specific psychologist sign-off. Sarah, Preston Myers merger stalled. Something about psychological assessment. Father, since when does Anderson Group need a psychologist's approval? I silenced the notifications as Goldman CEO Michael Preston walked in. His body language screamed anxiety, shoulders tense, fingers drumming, eyes darting. Dr. Sullivan, he began, we have a situation. The Anderson acquisition, I nodded. I assume you've seen my preliminary assessment? He slumped into one of my carefully positioned chairs. It's devastating. Your analysis of our corporate culture incompatibility, the predicted post-merger staff retention rates. Psyche, display the compatibility matrices. The wall transformed into a massive data display, showing complex psychological patterns and behavioral predictions. 5 years of doctoral research had created this system, while my family mocked my waste-of-time degree. Your brother's team, Preston continued, they missed everything you caught. The Anderson Group's dedication to autonomy, their collaborative decision-making style, it's completely incompatible with our current acquisition strategy. Speaking of my brother's team, I glanced at Psyche's security feed. They've just realized whose office they're in. The secondary conference room showed James and his team, their faces shifting from confusion to shock as they recognized my name on the door. The same name they'd dismissed over countless family dinners. Send them in, I instructed. James entered first, his usual swagger replaced by something approaching fear. Rachel, you're the consultant. Dr. Sullivan, Preston corrected sharply. Show some respect. She's the top corporate psychological profiler in the country. I watched my brother struggle to reconcile his banking empire's fate resting in his failure sister's hands. But, you just listen to people's problems. No, James. I analyze complex human behavioral patterns in high-stakes corporate environments. I predict merger success rates. I evaluate leadership compatibility. I pulled up more data screens. And right now I'm explaining why your acquisition strategy is fundamentally flawed. The Anderson Group deal is solid, he protested. The numbers. Numbers don't account for human nature, I cut him off. Your aggressive acquisition style directly conflicts with their collaborative culture. Implementation would fail within 6 months. Preston nodded. Dr. Sullivan's previous predictions have been accurate to within 3%. Her assessment is final. James collapsed into a chair, his world tilting. How long have you been doing this? Remember when you mocked my first corporate client 5 years ago? Called it therapy for weak executives. I smiled. That client was the Federal Reserve chairman. Now I have a 3-month waiting list and a 7-figure consultation fee. 7 figures, he whispered. Per assessment. More for expedited services. I turned back to Preston. Speaking of which, shall we discuss the alternative strategy I've prepared? My phone buzzed. Sarah was calling again about the Preston-Myers merger. The one she didn't know I was about to restructure completely. Psyche current client value assessment? The AI's voice filled the room. Current confirmed clients represent 67% of Fortune 500 market cap. Waiting list includes 12 heads of state, 8 central bank governors, and the top 5 global investment banks. James's team shifted uncomfortably, recognizing names of deals they'd worked on, deals that had required my approval. Now, I turned back to Preston, about the Anderson Group. I have an alternative suggestion that would preserve both corporate cultures while achieving your growth objectives. Whatever you recommend, he agreed quickly. Your track record speaks for itself. James watched in silence as I restructured his billion-dollar deal into something completely different. His commission was about to vanish, but more importantly, his illusion of power was crumbling. One more thing, I added casually. The Preston-Myers merger? The one my sister's firm is handling. Preston nodded. It needs a complete psychological reassessment. The current structure is unsustainable. I'll call Sarah's managing partner immediately, he agreed. James finally found his voice. All those deals. All those times clients insisted on special consultant approval. Were me, I confirmed. Turns out psychology is quite valuable in real business after all. An hour later, my office was considerably more crowded. Sarah had arrived with her managing partner, their faces ashen as they realized whose approval they'd been desperately seeking for the Preston-Myers merger. My father had come too, probably hoping to damage control what was quickly becoming a complete shift in family power dynamics. Your latest assessment, Dr. Sullivan. Psyche displayed new data matrices. Preston-Myers merger shows 78% probability of cultural collapse within first year. Recommendation: complete restructure or termination. Sarah clutched her legal briefcase like a shield. This is impossible. We've spent months on this merger. And missed every psychological red flag, I noted. Competitive internal cultures, conflicting leadership styles, incompatible decision-making processes. But the financials, her managing partner started, mean nothing if the human elements fail. I pulled up historical data. Psyche, show them the Harrison-Webb merger from last year. The screens filled with data from a similar merger that had collapsed spectacularly, one I'd advised against. Perfect financials, I explained. Terrible psychological compatibility. $8 billion in shareholder value destroyed because nobody listened to the useless psychologist. My father cleared his throat. Rachel, surely we can discuss this as a family. Like you discussed my career choices as a family? I turned to face him. All those dinners mocking my degree, my work, my choices. How's that working out now? James hadn't spoken since the Goldman CEO left. He was still staring at the client list displayed on one wall. A Fortune 500 who's who of companies that wouldn't make major moves without my approval. Psyche, I called. Current success rate of endorsed ventures? 97.8% success rate over 5 years. Ventures rejected or restructured by Dr. Sullivan show 89% failure rate when pursued against recommendation. Sarah's managing partner pulled out his phone. I need to call the Preston-Myers board immediately. Dr. Sullivan, can we retain you for a full assessment? My next available slot is in 3 months. Unless you'd like to discuss expedited services. Whatever it costs, he agreed quickly. Speaking of costs, James finally spoke. How much do you actually make? I smiled. Psyche, display annual revenue. The number appeared on screen, causing Sarah to choke on her water. It was more than her law firm made in 5 years. That's just the corporate work, I added. Government contracts are considerably more. Government contracts? My father asked weakly. Why do you think I miss so many family dinners? I'm usually having dinner with senators, CEOs, world leaders. I turned to Sarah. Remember last month when you mocked me for canceling Sunday dinner? I was consulting with the Fed chairman on interest rate psychological impacts. The room fell silent as years of assumptions crumbled. Dr. Sullivan, Psyche announced, White House is holding on line 1. Regarding tomorrow's economic advisory assessment. My family stared as I took the call, discussing global financial psychology with the president's chief of staff like it was a casual chat. After I hung up, Sarah spoke first. Why didn't you ever tell us? Would you have believed me? Besides, watching you all assume I was failing while I built this empire. It was quite the psychological study. About the Anderson deal, James started. Is dead, I confirmed. But I've prepared an alternative strategy. One that might save your reputation if not your commission. And the Preston Myers merger? Sarah's managing partner asked. Needs to be completely restructured. I'll have my team send over the preliminary psychological requirements. Sarah can handle the legal framework, assuming she's willing to actually listen to her failure, sister. My father stood up straighter, slipping into his business mode. Perhaps we should discuss how to integrate your expertise into the family's business interests. No need, I smiled. I already control most of them. Those psychological assessments your companies have been requiring? All come through my firm. I've been directing the family's business success for years. You just didn't know it. I walked to the window, looking out over the city where I'd built my silent empire. It's fascinating, really. A perfect case study in assumption bias and psychological blindness. You were all so convinced of what success looked like, you missed it standing right in front of you. Rachel, my father said quietly, I was wrong. Yes, you were. Psyche, show them the family investment analysis. The screens displayed how my psychological insights had secretly shaped our family's business success over the years. Which deals I'd quietly guided, which disasters I'd silently averted. Now, I turned back to them. Shall we discuss how this changes our monthly family dinners? Later that night, as I sat in my private study reviewing potential client files, my phone filled with messages. Aunt Patricia, darling, about that business advice. Cousin Michael, any chance of moving up the consulting waitlist? Mother, we should have listened. I archived them all, then opened my calendar to next month's family dinner. Instead of the usual location at my parents' house, I'd booked a private room at the most exclusive restaurant in the city. The one I owned. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about letting them slowly discover just how right you've been all along. And sometimes the most powerful person in the room isn't the one bragging about their success. It's the quiet one studying everyone else's behavior, knowing their empires rise and fall on her understanding of the human mind. As for me, I still drive my modest car and live simply. But now when my family sees me at dinner, they don't just see their failure sister with the useless degree. They see the woman who controls the fate of their business empires with a single psychological assessment. Turns out understanding human behavior is the most valuable business skill of all.